I always thought I knew my wife, the woman I had spent years with, shared dreams with, and built a life alongside. But that illusion shattered the moment I found out she had been seeing someone else. Another man, someone who had somehow convinced her to throw away the life we had painstakingly built. The betrayal stung more than anything I had ever felt. A deep, raw wound that refused to heal. At first, I tried to confront her calmly, to understand why she would risk everything for a fleeting affair, but her smirk, the one she wore when she thought I wouldn't notice, said it all. She didn't regret it. She felt no shame. She felt victorious. I stayed silent that first week, letting my anger simmer and my mind plan. I had always provided for her, never questioned her needs, never doubted that she appreciated what we had. But clearly she never valued loyalty, love, or even honesty. So I decided to act where words would fail. I cut off all financial support. Everything that she had been living off, every lavish expense, every credit card, every bank transfer I had been sending her, all gone. I didn't do it impulsively. I calculated every step, every potential blowback. I knew lawyers would come, threats would fly, maybe even pity from mutual friends. But I also knew she had no real claim over my integrity or my sanity. The first sign of panic came 2 days later. I had barely finished my morning coffee when my phone rang. Her lawyer. I could hear her voice in the background, frantic and overdramatic. "We need to talk immediately. You can't do this. You're jeopardizing everything legally." I stayed calm. I let the line ring a few seconds longer than necessary, letting the panic settle in. Then I spoke. "I can and I will. You can tell her I made a decision she forced me into." There was a pause. Then her lawyer started in with the legal threats, the rehearsed lines about court, about breach of agreement, about her right to a lifestyle she is accustomed to. But I could hear it, the hesitation, the stress. Lawyers are trained to sound confident, to intimidate, but even they can't mask a client who is floundering. And she was floundering fast. "You don't understand," he said, voice shaking just slightly. She can't survive without your support." I smiled, though he couldn't see it. That was the point. She had chosen another man. A man who likely couldn't care less about her beyond the thrill. She could survive, or at least she could have survived if she had thought ahead. But she hadn't. "I understand perfectly," I said. "I just understand my own boundaries now." She chose him. She made her bed. I'm not paying for her to sleep in it. The line went quiet. I imagined him frantically pacing, trying to craft a strategy to convince me to relent. I knew the next step. He would escalate. Threats of court, of public humiliation, of property claims. I had already anticipated it. I had copies of every bank statement, every transaction, every document showing how I had supported her voluntarily, without coercion. Legally, I was untouchable. Morally, untouchable as well. I had loved her, provided for her, and given her a life many women would dream of. She had thrown it away for someone who hadn't earned a fraction of what I had given her. 2 hours later, the lawyer came to my office in person. A neatly dressed man trying hard to maintain an air of authority. I let him sit, let him fume, let him try to negotiate. "You're being unreasonable," he said, voice tight. "I've explained the consequences. This is not just a matter of choice, it's your legal obligation." I leaned back in my chair, fingers interlaced. "No, this is a matter of accountability. She is responsible for her actions, not me. I fulfilled every obligation I had. Now it's her turn to face reality. I don't owe anyone compensation for the mistake she made." He shifted uncomfortably, glancing at the framed photos on my desk. Pictures of vacations we had taken together, birthdays celebrated, milestones shared. I knew he thought he could appeal to sentiment, to guilt. But he was forgetting the truth. Those photos were evidence not of commitment, but of investment. And I was done investing in lies. By the end of the meeting, he left with promises to escalate, to take it to court, to ensure she gets what she's entitled to. I didn't flinch. Let him come. Every claim he would make, every document he would produce, I was ready for. I had anticipated it all. The key was silence and patience, letting her panic do the rest. Within a week, the calls stopped. Her messages turned desperate, first polite, then pleading. Please, we can talk. Let's work this out. I ignored them all. Each message, each attempt to manipulate, reinforced my decision. She had chosen her path. Now she would walk it alone, without my money, without my support, without any safety net I had once provided. Watching her struggle, hearing from mutual friends that she was panicking, that she was realizing the cost of betrayal, gave me a strange sense of closure. Not joy, never that, but a sense of balance restored. I hadn't sought revenge. I had merely withdrawn my support, something she had abused without thought. Life has a way of teaching lessons, and sometimes the lesson comes quietly, without a dramatic confrontation, without violence or anger, just the quiet consequence of one's own choices. Months later, I heard she had moved in with her lover, who turned out to be less reliable than she had imagined. The expensive gifts, the trip she had thought she'd enjoy, they vanished under the weight of reality. She had no one to bail her out, no one to blame but herself. And for the first time, she understood the cost of betrayal. Not in words, not in arguments, but in tangible, unavoidable consequence. As for me, life moved on. I focused on my work, my health, my future. I didn't seek another relationship immediately. I didn't need to. I had reclaimed my peace, my autonomy, and my dignity. She had walked away thinking she would find happiness in someone else's arms, but she had lost the one thing that mattered most: respect, trust, and the understanding that some choices have irreversible consequences. Cutting off the money wasn't cruel. It was necessary. It wasn't a punishment. It was a boundary. And as I watched her lawyer run back and forth, scrambling to cover for a client who had made her own bed, I realized something important. Betrayal reveals true character, but consequences reveal true strength. I had both. She had neither. And that, more than anything else, was my victory.